What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the channel. Hope everybody's having a fantastic week so far. Today, we are not just digging into a PC. We are celebrating over 500 subscribers. To all of my subscribers, thank you guys so freaking much. When I started this channel, I had no idea where it was going to go. But it's clear to me now what you guys want to see, and that is what I'm going to keep on doing. I am overjoyed at the fact that you guys enjoy the content that I'm putting out. I could have never expected this kind of response from the community, but I underestimated you guys. As of filming, we are at 520 subscribers, and it's just been going up and up and up. I did not expect to be at this point until many, many months down the road. It blows my mind at the response that I've gotten from you guys. I cannot be more grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. With that being said, I'm putting out a video nice and early in celebration of 500 subs. Today, we're going to be taking a look at an old school PC that I pulled out of a dumpster. I also pulled out all kinds of other PC parts and components that is going to help us in future builds for the channel. I can't wait to get to those. I can't wait to get to this. It is sitting right here. I can't wait to work on this thing, but I'm telling you right now, this thing is in rough shape. It definitely, seriously needs some help. I don't know what's inside. I don't know if it works. Regardless, if it does or it doesn't, we are going to get it up and going. With that being said, again, thank you. Let's get into the video. Alright, so this is our PC in question. This thing is absolutely filthy. It has definitely been neglected, and again, I did find this inside of a dumpster outside of a house. I do believe that they were possibly moving or just cleaning out a bunch of old stuff, but regardless, this thing has definitely been through the ringer. I feel so bad for this thing. It's got some pretty deep scratches on here. We've got a good bit of dust. We've got some nasty residue of an old sticker that used to be on here. It's not happy. Aside from that, we are missing our rear I/O shield. Our graphics card is not seated all the way. It's definitely hanging out of the PCIe slot. It's probably not going to work upon hooking it up, so before hooking it up, we are definitely going to pull this front panel off, which is missing screws, by the way. It has a severe bend down here. It won't even latch all the way. So, yeah, we'll get this panel off and see what we're dealing with on the inside. I have no idea. I'm hoping and praying that we can get this thing up and running. So, as per usual, I'm going to get you guys set up, get this panel off, and see what exactly we're looking at here. Alright, so we have our PC on the operating table. Again, there are no screws in the back, so we should just be able to pop this front panel off and see what kind of goodies this thing is hiding on the inside. So, let's go ahead and get this off and see what we are working with. So first things first, you can see where this is bent right here, super bad. So it's not seating all the way with the back here. Probably just use some pliers and get this bent back into shape. Should be simple enough. Alright, so with that being off, we can see what we're working with here. First thing I notice is our GPU is obviously not seated all the way, so we'll go ahead and pull this out and see what kind of GPU we're working with. So obviously this thing looks completely gutless. There's nothing indicating on here what kind of GPU this is, but it's super lightweight. Like, we'll probably end up going with a different GPU once we get this thing put together, hooked up, and tested, and making sure that it actually works. We are missing our RAM modules as well. Thankfully, I have a couple kits laying around, so we'll be able to get some RAM in here and hopefully get this thing up and running. So we'll go ahead and set this off to the side for now. So right off the bat, I'm noticing that our CPU cooler is just sitting here. Definitely looks crusty and dusty, but not too bad. Hopefully this thing still works. I'm not entirely sure why it would just be sitting in the bottom here like this, but it is what it is. We'll go ahead and set this off to the side and see what kind of CPU we're working with. So it looks like we are dealing with an AMD Athlon 64. Looks like the CPU released in right around 2005, 2006. With that being said, that's going to indicate that this is a DDR2 system. So I definitely have everything that I need to get this thing up and going. So for now, we'll set this off to the side and see what kind of motherboard we're working with. So it does look like we are working with an MSI motherboard. Model number is K9N6PGM2-V2. Not necessarily sure on the date of this motherboard, but I'll have to do some research and see exactly when this thing released, but I'm sure it was also, you know, between 2005 to 2007. So hopefully this old gal works. Looks like we do have one 120 mil fan in the rear, and then we do have a 350 watt PSU. Not sure the brand. We'll have to get this pulled out and actually see what it is that we're working with when it comes to our PSU. So we're going to get the CPU and GPU reinstalled in here, get some fresh thermal paste, get this thing hooked up, and see if it actually works. So before we go ahead and actually repaste our CPU, there's a couple things that I'm noting in here, and it's kind of gross. Seems like there is remnants of trash in here. So we'll just go ahead and set that off to the side. And then we do have a fair bit of nasty looking hairs. Probably dog hair, cat hair. Either way, this is nasty. But of course, before we go ahead and clean this thing out, we are going to go ahead and get some new paste on our CPU, get it all nice and cleaned off, get our GPU reinstalled with some RAM, and see if we can get this thing to at least boot into the BIOS. So as per usual, we're going to go with some 91% alcohol. We're just going to dab some alcohol on the CPU and get this thing cleaned off. Alright, so she does clean up super nice. Let's go ahead and move on to our cooler. Alright, so we got that all nice and cleaned off. So now I'm going to go ahead and take a soft bristle brush and just clean throughout these fins right here. I do notice a little bit of damage right here. I'm going to also try and bend this back into shape. Alright, so we got that. Looks like we have a little bit of damage over here as well. These fins are just slightly bent out of shape. Alright, so I will call that good enough. Let's go ahead and get our soft bristle brush and go ahead and just clean out these fins real fast. Alright, so this thing does clean up pretty nicely. Got a little bit of thermal paste here stuck on my thumb. Looks like we do have some little thermal paste remnants left over right here, but that should be perfectly fine. So we're going to go ahead, get some thermal paste on our CPU, get everything reinstalled, and see if this thing works. Alright, looks like that's it for this tube. Looks like that should be a good amount of thermal paste. Let's go ahead and get our cooler back on here. Alright, so we got our cooler installed. Let's go ahead and move on to our GPU. Unfortunately, there is no mounting plate here for the GPU, so it's kind of just going to be winging it in there. Hopefully this thing will actually work. Alright, there's our GPU. Alright, so in terms of RAM, we are looking at G.Skill. I do believe it's 2 series DDR2, running at 1066. This is a 4 gig kit, so this should be more than enough to get some games tested on here, check out some Windows, see how well it runs, and see what this thing can do in 2025. Alright, so we have our RAM installed. This thing should be good to go. So when I come back, this thing's going to be hooked up to a monitor, and we're going to see if we can boot into the BIOS. Alright, so we have this thing all hooked up and ready to go. Do you guys think that it's going to boot? Fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. Alright, so we do get power. I see our fan spinning up here. Are we going to get picture on the screen? Alright, so we do have some beeps coming from our system here. So far, no post. That is quite unfortunate. Alright, we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch out our GPU and see what happens. Alright, so this is the GPU that we're going to be going with. This is an MSI R6850 Cyclone by AMD. This is one of my personal GPUs. I know it works, so I'm going to go ahead and get this installed real quick, and then we will try and boot it again and see if we can get some picture on the screen. Alright, so we have our new GPU in. Fingers crossed that this thing is going to boot. Let's get into the BIOS, hope and pray, let's freaking go. So our fans are spinning up. We do have power. Let's see if we can get some picture on the screen here. There we go, look at that. We got picture on the screen. Let's see if we can get into the BIOS. And right into the BIOS we go. Let's go ahead and see what kind of temperatures we're getting on our CPU. And look at that. We are running at a cool 30 C or 86 Fahrenheit, depending on which part of the world you are in. Absolutely freaking phenomenal. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing unhooked, get everything moved out of the way here, get this thing back on the operating table, and get her torn apart, cleaned, dusted out, give the case a nice good wipe down, get some Windows installed on an SSD, and see what kind of results we can get out of testing on this PC. Let's freaking go. Alright, so first things first, we are going to go ahead and get our GPU unplugged here and get this thing out and set off to the side. Next up, we're going to remove our RAM. And then we will go ahead and start disconnecting everything. Alright, so that is all of our connections from the power supply and the front panel. Let's go ahead and start removing our screws here. Do have quite a bit of hair that I have to work around here. It's pretty nasty. But we will take care of that here shortly. Alright, so it looks like that's all of our screws. Seems like every single one of these screws is completely mismatched. Not a single one of these matches. But we'll go ahead and set these outside and get our board out. So I got a little bit overzealous there. I forgot our SATA connections here, which we do have. So that'll be making it nice and easy for us to install our SSD. Alright, there is our motherboard. Nice and hairy and gross and disgusting. So we'll go ahead and set this off the side real quick, and we will we're going to clean off our motherboard a little bit here. Alright, so it looks like she cleans up beautifully. This thing is ready for prom. Absolute beautiful board. Alright, we'll go ahead and set this off to the side and start pulling the rest of the components out of our case. Alright, so next up is going to be our PSU. Alright, so here is our PSU. It's actually relatively clean. This thing's actually in really good shape. It looks like we are dealing with a Powerman 350 watt power supply. Definitely has a little bit of dust here and there, but definitely not bad. So we'll go ahead and set this off to the side and continue with deconstruction of the case. So next up is going to be our fan. Alright, so here is our fan. It's actually not as dusty as I thought it was going to be. So, give this a quick little dust off and continue. Alright, so we have our fan nice and cleaned off, at least as clean as it's going to get. It's definitely got some discoloration. Probably because it's so old. Not a big deal, but we can definitely reuse this. So next up, we are going to go ahead and move to our front panel here. Man, these things are always explosive when they come off. So we do have a good bit of dust in here. Off camera, I'll go ahead and give this a nice little dust. With that being said, let's continue. Alright, so we have our fan nice and cleaned off. We have our front panel nice and clean. We're going to go ahead and clean out the rest of the inside of this case, and check this out. Somebody left me a snack. Oh, it just dumped all over the place. Nasty. It's absolutely hilarious. So I'll go ahead and toss this real quick, and then we will start just getting this all dusted out. It's honestly not that bad at all. A little bit of dog hair, obviously a little bit of debris, kind of my fault, and it's still dropping. So yeah, we'll get this thing cleaned out and then get it back together. Alright, so I got all this kind of like in one corner, so I'm going to go ahead and just dump this in the trash, and then we will start getting this thing back together. Alright, so that's about as good as she's going to get. I did go ahead and clean the front as well, just to make sure that there's no dust, debris, any crap up there. Next up, we're going to go ahead and just give the case a nice quick little wipe down here. As you can see, it definitely needs it. Alright, that is a lot better actually. We do have some like little scratches and gouges here that obviously not going to get out. Definitely has some dents on here from where it hit the dumpster that I pulled this thing out of, but not too bad. We'll go ahead and move on to the back. And again, plenty of scratches and just a lot of little marks here and there. But just one of those things that adds character. Alright, so we have this thing flipped back around. I'm going to go ahead and get my SATA cable for my disk drive here. Easy peasy. And then we'll go ahead and get our power supply reinstalled. Alright, so here's our power supply. So I did give this a quick little wipe down. Honestly, it wasn't that bad. So this should be good to just go right back where it came from. Alright, so we now have our power supply reinstalled. Let's go ahead and get our fan installed, and then we will move on to the motherboard, RAM, and graphics card. Alright, so we have that taken care of. I'm going to go ahead and get our motherboard, RAM, GPU all installed. I'm going to get our front panel back on, all of our connections reconnected. When I come back, this PC will be ready to test. Alright, you guys, check her out. She looks pretty damn good. We got everything nice and installed here. We got our GPU in. I do have a 1 terabyte hard drive in here. We do have Windows installed on it. So she should be good to go ahead and just power up and see if this thing will boot straight into Windows. Y'all ready? Fingers crossed that I didn't break anything. Alright, so she did power on. Let's see if it boots into Windows. And there's our Windows screen. Freaking let's go. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get some games installed onto here. We're going to do a couple game testings, and I'm going to show you guys what I actually want to use this thing for. Alright, you guys, so here's the deal. And this took me hours and hours to figure out. In fact, this actually took me a couple days to figure out, hence why this video has not released when it was supposed to. In fact, this video was supposed to come out a couple days ago when we hit our 500 sub mark. So no matter what I did, this thing would not install drivers for this card no matter what I did. So I swapped in another AMD card, would not install drivers. I swapped in a GTX 460, it would not install drivers. I was on my last nerve with this PC, and I tried one last card. I put in a GTX 260, and for some reason it immediately installed the Windows drivers for it, and then I was able to go to the NVIDIA site and actually get drivers installed. Once I did that, I was able to adequately test the system, and it did show that it worked. So I went ahead, I pulled the 260 out, and I went ahead and put in our R6850. For some weird reason, it then installed drivers for this. I was able to do DDU and get rid of any and all drivers previously installed for the GTX 260, and now it actually works. So that was the delay on this system. I don't entirely understand what exactly was wrong or why it wouldn't do it. It wouldn't do it. And some people might say, oh, well, you should be running Windows 7 or Windows Vista, and Windows 10 is too much on the system. But this is an extremely cut down version of Windows 10, and when I'm out of the game, it does not utilize the CPU or RAM hardly whatsoever. So we are running 4 gigs of DDR2 RAM. This is a 1 gig GDDR5 graphics card. Our CPU is the AMD Athlon 64, and it is a dual core. And then we have our MSI motherboard. So this system on a cut down version of Windows 10 should be absolutely perfect. It should work with minimal issues. And I'm going to showcase that right now. So we are going to start with an easy title. This is Warcraft II. This game released, I believe, right around 95, 96. This is a relatively older game, long before this system was ever even a smile in anybody's pocket. So this game is definitely much older than our system, but I believe it's a good starting point. And then we'll move on to a little bit more demanding games, and then I'm going to show you guys what I believe is the best use case for this type of computer. So with that being said, we're going to get right into testing, see how this thing runs, see what it can do, see what it can't do, and then go from there. So I'm going to get you guys set up here and test some games. Alright, so we are in to Warcraft II. We are getting extremely high FPS. We're running right around 750. Sometimes I see right around 800. Our RAM is being utilized nearly 70%. CPU is right around 60%. I cannot get the overlay for MSI Afterburner working on here. It would not show the stats for anything. So I'm not sure what was up with that. It seems to be an issue that I keep on running into with these older DDR2 systems. So it is what it is. We do have our monitor right here, which is going to suffice. So we'll go ahead and just get a little bit of gameplay real quick and then move on to our next one. So of course, this is not a demanding game at all. Super easy to run. This system should not struggle whatsoever with this game. Do keep in mind that I don't really know how to play this game very well. I'm not really sure what I'm doing here, but from what I can see, the game is working fantastic. I wouldn't mind running into an orc or something and getting into a little battle here, but even with that, I don't know how to fight. Alright, looks like we hit the edge of the map right there. I just want to get in one little battle and see what happens. Oh, there we go. We're in a battle. Who's gonna win? Oh, I got my butt kicked. No. Oh, that's okay. That was an epic little fight there. Alright, so obviously this game runs very good. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next one and see how this thing does. Alright, so now we are into Diablo 3. This game launched in 2012, so it's about like 5 or 6 years after our CPU actually had launched. But we are playing the Reaper of Souls expansion. So this actually released right around 2014-ish. Feel free to critique me in the comments if I am incorrect. And this just goes to show what these older systems can do. Look at what kind of FPS we are getting right now. We are running at a cool 60 FPS. Obviously our CPU is definitely being utilized here. Our RAM is almost 100%, but definitely not bad for running all medium and high settings. The graph on here will not show the GPU and VRAM usage. I don't think that this GPU has a built-in monitor for that, which is fine. But with that being said, we'll go ahead, we'll get a little bit of gameplay here and see if we can get this thing to falter at all, but I highly doubt it. This game is highly optimized. It's a great game. Runs relatively smooth. It looks like I'm getting a little bit of hitching here and there, but nothing too major. These games have a tendency to level out once you play a little bit. So this game is still popular till this day. As of this month, we still have over 700,000 players on this game. So that's insane. It's such a good game. But we'll see if we can't get into a little battle over here, see if we can't find some enemies. You never know what you might find. But definitely still quite a playable experience. Not bad at all. Oh, I'm about to get my butt kicked. Don't die. Alright. So it's still running pretty darn good. We are almost into the 80s in terms of FPS. definitely not bad at all. Even with a little bit of hitching and lagging here and there, this is still very, very playable. Obviously, if you can still kick butt, you are in a good position. And look at that, I made a little bit of money. Sweet. Let's freaking go. So I would say for a game that's, you know, over 12 years old at this point, the graphics on it are still pretty darn good. Rather impressive for what they could do back in the day. Not bad at all. Ooh, what's that? I got something. So whatever that was, just restored my health. Cool. Oh, these are some freaky creatures. What are these things? Quill Fiend. Definitely creepy looking. I can't wait to have some time to actually sit down and play this game through. I love RPGs like this. Looks so good. Oh, I got another level. Let's go. And some gold. Alright, so it seems like the more you play, the more it, you know, smooths out, levels out. I'm not getting any more glitching, lagging, hitching. It's just, it's running. Absolutely impressive. Alright, so I think you guys get the idea with this one. This one runs perfectly fine. Obviously, it took a few minutes for it to actually level out and get some smoother gameplay, but definitely not freaking bad at all. Let's go. So, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. Alright, you guys. So, I did want to try and showcase some newer titles running on this PC, but they either will not launch, or when they do, they have a tendency to freeze. I've unfortunately had to reset this computer a couple times in order to get back to the screen that you see now. So, newer titles, not going to happen, unfortunately. I did try Valheim, I tried Mamba Zoo, My Garage, and The Long Drive. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to showcase the main use case for this type of PC. At least what I would use it for. So when I come back, you guys will see exactly what this thing is meant to do and where it's going to shine. Alright, you guys, so this is the conclusion in which I drew for a system like this. Emulator beast. This thing should be able to run any and all classic games, and there are plenty of sites on the internet where you can just open the browser, click a game, and play for free. So this one's Retro Game Zone, and it's browser based. You pick the game that you want and you play. It's super simple. Literally just hook up a controller, get into the game, move my mouse so it's not in the way, and away we go, right into the game. You have full access to the full game. You can use your Xbox controller, PlayStation controller, whatever you want. Oh, and then unalive yourself very quickly. We'll give this one more try and I'll showcase a few more games on here. For me, this is one of my all-time favorite classics. I love this game so much. Been playing this game since the early 90s. This is just one of those extremely nostalgic games for me. I love Mario. So if you're ever looking to play classic games, you know, all you have to do is buy a very cheap DDR2 system like this, and away you go. For me, I'll probably get hours and hours of enjoyment out of this. These games actually tend to run better on these older consoles than the newer release stuff. It's crazy. I have the camera in front of me, so I can't really see what I'm doing. I'm trying here. But as you can see, runs fantastic. No issues, no glitching, no ads, no crap. So we'll go ahead and we'll move on to another one. Alright, so can you guys imagine playing Pokemon on the big screen? This is Pokemon Sapphire. Another one of my all-time favorites. When this came out, I could not get enough of it. I played the living crap out of this game as a youngster. This one definitely brings back a lot of fond memories, and it's so amazing that you can find free emulators and ROMs online to pretty much relive your childhood. So, again, this is Pokemon Sapphire. This is a Game Boy Advance game. One of the best Pokemons ever released. I absolutely enjoyed the hell out of this. We'll get some gameplay, we'll see how it runs, see if we can't get into a battle or two. For me, I always pick Torchic. And straight into the battle we go. And not to mention, you can play it on a controller, just further enhancing your experience. And boom, we whooped Poochyana's butt. Freaking awesome. Let's go. So, as you can see, this definitely runs perfectly fine. Absolutely way more enjoyable than playing it on a tiny little screen. Go ahead, do one more little battle here, and we're going to move on to our next game. This still blows my mind to this day that you can find stuff like this for free. You can play the heck out of it, enjoy it, and again, relive your childhood. At least for me. And just like that, we smoked Wurmple. Easy frickin' peasy. On to our next game. Alright, you guys, so next up is Resident Evil 3. One of the best games, one of the best horror games, that is, to ever hit the PlayStation market. I remember when this game first came out, I was absolutely terrified, yet so excited to play this game. It was so good, and still is. See if I can remember how to play, even in the slightest here. Oh god, I'm gonna get my butt kicked. Yeah, I'm getting my butt kicked. Alright. Let's see if we can't get this weapon here equipped. Alright. Alright, now we have our pew pew. Not gonna lie, the controls on this one are a little bit difficult, but manageable once you get the hang of it. And look at that, we just took down our first zombie. And our second. Any more? Who else wants some smoke? Well, unfortunately, I have no idea how to use the controls on here. There we go, there we go. Alright, we're getting it, you guys. Again, this game runs absolutely perfect. No issues, no hitches, no lagging, no nothing. Just, it works. So Resident Evil is just, it's so good. Especially Nemesis. This was a third iteration that they had come out with. It's just, it was so freaking good. So, with that being said, we are going to go ahead and we're going to move on to one last game. Alright, so last but not least, we are into Doom. One of my all-time favorites. Always going to love this game. So good. Seems to be running perfectly well on here. No issues, no lagging, no hitching. And the biggest thing is, there's no ads. You don't have to sit through no BS ads or nothing like that. You can just play the game, enjoy it. I do notice on this particular game it does not exactly look the best. However, it is definitely still playable. Not bad at all. And for free, who's going to complain? Now, I will say that if I was playing this on like an older CRT monitor, it would probably look 1,000 times better. So we'll see if we can't get in a little bit of action here and then conclude our testing. Honestly, it's been so long since I played this game, I have no idea what I'm doing. The controls are definitely wonky, not gonna lie. Oh, here we go. Oh, I'm getting attacked by something. Can't remember how to shoot. Oh, he's gonna kill me. No, don't. There we go. Oh, I figured it out. Oh, we got him. Let's go. Freaking phenomenal. We got one more guy. Oh, and we win. Alright folks, that is going to do it for this one. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know I sure as hell did. This one was definitely a fun one to do. I love these blasts from the past. Thank you for all my new subscribers, commenters, sharers, all of you. You guys are all freaking amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay safe in the world.